There was a pretty early, funny sequence where there was actually this company in 2005 that got started that was called College Facebook. It was like an exact clone of us, and it even had the same name, right? And their strategy, because we started at Harvard and then tried to branch out to schools that we thought would have dense social connections with Harvard so we could build this network, their goal was they wanted to start in places that we weren't, right? So they started on the West Coast and in the South when we started in the Northeast, and they tried to build up this network of different schools, and it was just this race for a while. And eventually
Boulder, Seattle.
Yeah, and it's, and we just took this stuff really seriously, and I remember Dustin just took it so personally, right? It's like anytime they'd launch at some school that we weren't at, we had this concept that we actually still have at the company today called lockdown, which is whenever any other company gets ahead of us on something that we think is strategic to us, back then, lockdown meant we literally did not leave the house until we had addressed the problem. Now, it's a little looser of an interpretation inside the company. We don't literally lock everyone inside the office, but about as close to that as we can legally get. And now the funny thing is, inside Facebook, because we have a lot of different initiatives, teams kind of do this themselves, right? And just decide it's like, all right, there's like some competitor that has something that we feel like we really need. Like we're going into lockdown to get this thing because we're not gonna, let College Facebook get ahead of us.
So in retrospect, could you have completely ignored College Facebook and it wouldn't have made any difference?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Don't you think like you would have just eventually spread to those schools and killed them?
I mean, in theory, I think they didn't do a perfect job copying us. One of the things that's interesting is that there are some countries where folks have made such good clones of Facebook that it has been very hard for us to grow. And Russia is the biggest example, right? So vKontakte, these guys are just like the International Olympiad computing Olympiad champions, and it's a small team, and they just did like an awesome job cloning Facebook, and there are fewer content laws, so they also have like illegal file downloads and all this stuff, and like we just have not been able to beat them. And it's and maybe it's because of the illegal file downloads, and it's we're
so you should add file downloads.
Well,
Come on, dude.
We try not to break the law, but it's we're growing fine, right? And it's like linear growth, and we're I think slowly making a lot of progress, and I'm pretty sure we'll pass them eventually. But it's been literally like almost 10 years, right, since we got started with Facebook, and we still have not beaten them in Russia. So it is possible that if the College Facebook folks had done better and had gone faster, then maybe.
No, but like they went the speed they did. That wasn't affected by your lockdowns. I'm just wondering, like maybe those lockdowns were unnecessary. Because we always advise people basically just ignore competitors, right?
I do think that it's definitely possible to over-rotate on competitors. But one caveat that I would say, I think people tend to worry too much about strategic competitors who are doing something that's related. But clones, I think, actually end up being a pretty big nuisance, right? So there are these whole companies now in Europe that like all they do is just clone companies that have been founded in the US and other places and try to bring them to Europe and have network effects, and it's like a pain in the ass, right? And I don't think it's so I actually think you do want to internationalize and pay attention to that stuff fairly early, because those things are really annoying once they get lodged in.
Okay, I think we have